Hello guys, once again it's Matt, and today we have another video, and today we're going to have another tier list. So today we're going to check it out, the IR missiles. So let's first thank our members, all the Overlanding 11B for being the full crew member, all the Foxpad member Igor, Yuyush, Justin Field, Jaf, Chalares, Astropub, and Silami. Thank you for being the Foxpad members, and all the Fishpad members. Thank you, members. It helps a lot. And let's get into it. Make sure to subscribe. So we are going to with our little list here again. Power creeps, kinda OP, not great, not terrible, kinda terrible, and trash bin. Let's talk about the IR missiles. Remember, we are going to talk about the IR missiles that are available right now for the fixed wing aircraft. For example, we have the RB-74 in game, for example, in the files for the helicopters, but we don't have it for the aircraft, so the fixed wing aircraft. Also, the R13M, for example, it's not existent anymore in the game, but we have the R13M1. So yeah, but let's get into it. So, and remember also that I'm going to post this on a way that, depending on the aircraft that they use, if it's a good aircraft or not. I think, for example, you get an AIM-9B, for example, there's a lot of aircraft from a very early BR until a very late BR that use it. So I will consider every single BR and the way that the missile is and stuff. So yeah. So let's get into it. First of all, let's start with the USA. Let's organize this a little bit. Let's talk about the British, the French, the Chinese, the Soviets, and then all the other ones. And I will jump a bit for some of the missiles as well. But yeah, let's get started by the time frame with the AIM-9B. So it's the first missile to be used by the US, and to be honest, I think it's not great, not terrible. To be honest, it's a missile that a lot of people hate on it, but it is a very good missile depending on the BR that you are. I think the aircraft that are more top tier, you eventually will end up not uh, having this missile for a longer time, because you will end up researching a better missile anyway. So it's just an opinion that for the aircraft that uses this as a top tier missile, I think it's very, very good. And to be honest, in all those missiles, I'm going to consider more of the top tier missile of the aircraft. If, for example, the AIM-9B is the top tier of an aircraft, I will consider more that than aircraft that are stock with the AIM-9B and then get another missile later, because then you are stock and it doesn't really matter that much. But for the top tier upgrade for that aircraft, if it's the AIM-9B, for example, I will consider that. And for most, the AIM-9B is used for most of the 87s, 90s, 93s, 97s. A lot of aircraft use this missile, and it is very, very limited. Obviously, it's the first missile ever to be produced by the US IR, but it's a missile that it's alright for its BR. It's not that good, but it can be a useful weapon. I think you get a lot of misses with it, but it is a very, very useful weapon. I would put many other missiles in this category as well, like the RB-24, for example, obviously because it's the same missile, and even the PL2 and the R3S. Where is it? It's inverted a bit. Because they are basically the same missile. The PL2 and the R3Ss are a little bit, tiny bit different, but the differences are just so tiny that it doesn't matter too much. It has more payload, I think, but it's a little bit more slow, something like that. So yeah, it's a missile that these missiles are just, it depends on the BR that you're using, but normally they're alright to use, difficult to use. You don't expect too much from them, to be honest, so you ended up not having too much to complain about it as well. I would put the AIM-9F as well here, which is the AIM-9 a B, but with the FGW upgrade, that we normally see in the German tech tree. So the flag is kind of wrong here, because it is an American missile, but it is built by, it's upgraded in Germany. So yeah, but it's basically the same missile. It has a little bit more FOV and less flare. Uh, no, more flare resistant a little bit, something like that. So yeah, it's just a tiny bit different, doesn't change much. Also, another missile that I can put in here, I think is the Shafrir 1. I think it's very similar to all these missiles. It doesn't change much. The performance of these missiles are just the same. As I said, I think in the aircraft they use them, they are pretty alright, to be honest. I think the AIM-9F, uh, since it's used in aircraft, only in aircraft that are already have better missiles to use, I would put it probably in kind of terrible or even in the trash bin, because you will end up using a better missile anyway, and it's not something that you use in the low tiers. So yeah, it's kind of alright. And the Shafir one, it, I mean, a Votur can use it, so it's a very low BR aircraft, so it's kind of alright to use it in its BR. So these missiles are pretty alright in their BR. So let's keep going. The AIM-9D, to be honest, I think it's kind of terrible. It used to be kind of OP on its BR, because normally you'd see this missile being like in 9.3, 9.7. It was very, very good with the, how is it called? The Uncaged Seeker, I think it's called. But now they removed that, so it's kind of terrible. It's just it's way better than AIM-9B, to be honest, but it is just a missile that in its BR it can be very problematic when you use them. You normally don't actually you normally don't use in 9.3, 9.7. You normally it's the stock missile for like a 10.0, 10.3 missile. So you ended up having troubles with it, and you ended up getting the AIM-9G eventually on most of the aircraft that use this missile. So yeah, it's just not that good right now because of the Uncaged Seeker. The AIM-9E, I think it could be kind of not great, not terrible as well. In its BR, it's alright to use. It turns way better than AIM-9B and all the other AIM-9s that we have here. But it is just not that amazing as well. I mean, I think it is alright. I mean, FRC, I can think of the F100, and on their BR, I mean 9.7, 10.0, it's a alright missile. It is still very slow, and even though it has not slow, it's way faster than AIM-9B, but it's the range is very limited. So I still think that AIM-9E, it is a lot better than the E, but it's just the BR that you normally fight with the AIM-9D is just worse, I think. Um, then we have the AIM-9G. I think it's alright as well. It doesn't change much, from the D. It's just that it has the Uncaged Seeker. But I'm putting in not great, not terrible, just because it is normally used by a lot of top tiers aircraft, and in top tier, the AIM-9G is just not enough. I think it is just not good, to be honest, and I think all the aircraft they use the AIM-9G as the top missile. I think they should change it for at least the AIM-9H, which I would also put in here, but probably it will be needed even better missile. Like the Kafir would need the Python 3s, the F4Ms and Ks would need the AIM-9L maybe. So yeah, the Israelis could have the F4E with the instead of the AIM-9G, the Python 3 as well. So I just think that the missile is very limited for the BR that normally faces, and the AIM-9H also does that. I mean, it only is used on the F-14 if I'm not mistaken, and it is just it's not impossible to use, but it's not a very good missile. It's just a tiny bit better on the track rate against the AIM-9G. But it is just, it's not the greatest missile ever. They're really not that good. Really easy to avoid with flares, and they have a very slow velocity because the longer burn time means less thrust initially. So yeah, these missiles they're way better than these ones, don't get me wrong, but it's just a matter of the BR that they face. The AIM-9E gets a lot less BR than the Gs and Hs, for example, but because of the performance, still they are in the same not great, not terrible, but even with the AIM-9E being worse than the AIM-9D, in my opinion, I think the AIM-9D being better, but it is kind of terrible because of the BR as well. So consider the BR that the aircraft are flying, okay? Then we have the majority of American aircraft. We have the AIM-9G and AIM-9P. Let's put it here for now. These are missiles that are were considered very, very good back in the day, but to be honest, they are not great, not terrible as well. I know I'm putting a lot of missiles here, but they're just missiles. You can put the RB 24J as well. They're missiles that, even though they are very good, they have very short range. They like some flares, not as much as other missiles, but they don't turn that much. They are 20G limit missiles, and they're just all right. They can be used very well in top tier. Remember, these are basically top tier missiles, so they're not that bad, but they have its problems with range and turning capabilities. So yeah, this is basically the last missiles from the upgraded AIM-9Bs. If you don't know, the AIM-9Bs could be upgraded until an AIM-9J. They upgraded to the AIM-9E and the E for the J and P. So yeah, it's a missile that, and the D for the H as well, because it's the Navy ones, right? So it's just missiles that are alright. They are not amazing, but they're not bad as well. So I would put it on not great, not terrible. A lot of missiles in here just because of their BR. In top tier, it's alright. If you get these missiles in 10.0, it would be a power creep, for example. But normally you face these missiles on a more top tier situation. Then we have the AIM-9L. Basically, just two aircraft used it. I would put it, even though it has some bugs, I would obviously put it on the Power Creepers, one of the best missiles in the game. It combines a better turning than the P and J, with the longer burn time of a DG and H. So it makes it very, very, and it's even better. It has more energy than all of these and turns better than these. So it is just the best missiles that the Americans have right now. Unfortunately, I think only two aircraft, or technically three, use them. The two A-10s and the F-104 ASA from Italy. But it is just a very, very capable missile. I still think that this missile should be in many, 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 many other aircraft, like the F4F, like the F4M, and many others. And it's just a very, very incredible missile, to be honest. It is. They say that the sensor on it is a little bit nerfed. It had some bugs back in the day. Now it's a little bit better, but still kind of weird. Um, it tries to intercept the target from a certain point of view, and then it just misses sometimes. So it is kind of glitchy. And it is all aspect, the first missile all aspect that we are talking about. And I just think that it's one of the best missiles in the game. I had to put it on the power creep. It's just a very, very, very good missile. So yeah, continuing, we have the fire streak. To be honest, in its BR, it depends on the aircraft because we have the red top, but I would put it on probably not yeah, it would be kind of not great, not terrible because they are very similar, but I'm going to put it the red top as well in kind of OP. Because of the BR of these missiles, they're pretty alright actually to use, especially the red top, but the fire streak as well, it is very, very good. And it is limited initially, but then afterwards you get the red top. Most of the aircraft that use the fire streak will get the red top. I think only the Javelin uses the fire streak always, but the burn time is a lot longer than in 9B, and for a BR like 8.7, it's very good missile. It's amazing. And for the Lightning, the red top, it's even better. It turns way better. And for a 9.7 BR, I mean, it's a very, very good missile. I get a lot of kills with it, more than with the cannons, to be honest, with the Lightning, and more with the fire streak than with the cannons on the Javelin as well. So they are both very good missiles for their time, and they have very long burn time. They have a very large, you know, uh, proximity fuse with a large payload. So yeah, it's very, very, very okay to use both these missiles. Pretty good. Then we have the SRAAM. I think I would put in kind of OP. Back in the day, it was kind of a power creep, but it has very, very limited range, about a kilometer 100, maybe max, and it is very easy to avoid these missiles with flares, even though a lot of these missiles are just using the 10.0 and 10.3 BR, but it's still a missile that it's like me and my friends like to call this missile force field, basically because if you get near the aircraft that use them, you are basically dead, depending on the BR. So yeah, it's a very difficult, it's basically an impossible missile to evade. It's just such a very good missile. But because it doesn't have a lot of range and stuff like that, it's not a power creep. But it is kind of OP in its BR, especially the Harrier with these. It's just an amazing aircraft already. Even though the performance in turning is not that great, the acceleration and stuff, it's amazing on that aircraft. Together with this, it becomes a very deadly weapon. And then for the French, I would put the Magic 1 in the kind of OP. It is better, way better than if you're considering top tier, obviously, because these missiles are used in top tier. If you're comparing to the M9P, RB24J, and M9J, it is way better than that. They have more range, more speed, it turns better, way better, 35 Gs. And the field of view is smaller on the inner circle, which makes it very difficult sometimes to evade depending on the aircraft that you're using with flares. So very deadly. It's just not a power creep because it is not all aspect like the M9L. But for that, we have the Magic. Why is it Magic 1 as well? Jesus. Yeah, this is wrong. So consider this to be the Magic 2, okay? So yeah, the Magic 2 would be in the power creep. It's even the other model, as you see, it is the Magic 2, but I forgot to change the number and I deleted the thing. So yeah, ignore that for now. Sorry, guys. But yeah, the Magic 2 would be a power creep. They're basically the same missile, even though the Magic 2 doesn't have the IRCCM, which is the infrared countermeasure of the missile. It is still one of the best missiles in top tier. It turns better than the M9L, even though it burns for. I mean, the M9L has better range than both of these missiles, but they turn better than the M9L. So it's just a very, very good missile. I just put the kind of OP on the Magic 1 because they are not all aspect, and then the Magic 2 on the power creeps, obviously, because they are all aspect and very short burn time with a lot of power. So very, very deadly weapon. Then the last missile. I think this is pretty alright, to be honest. I would not put in kind LP because it is very easy to evade this missile just with maneuvers. So it's another missile that we see with the not great, not terrible. A lot of missiles in here that are just alright to use. They're not great, not terrible, but yeah, the R530E. It's less French missile that we have here. It's alright. In its BR, it can be very problematic to use sometimes because of flares if you are in the certain range of flares. But yeah, a lot of people even used it instead of the Super 530D on the Mirage F1 just because the Super 530D is just complete trash right now because of the chaff resistance that it's not existent there. So yeah, but a very good missile, very long range. One of the first, I mean, not very long range, but it's longer range than the normal missiles from that time, so the M9B and stuff. So yeah, very, very okay missile to use, especially in the Mirage 3, which is a lower BR. Then we have the PO5B. I mean, I kind of had to put it, I almost had to put in the power creep, but I mean, it's still not an all aspect missile, which makes it so that these missiles are way superior than this, but it is almost there. I mean, if you had a little bit more of a better sensor, it would be above these missiles. I mean, it is such a fast accelerating missile, it's not even funny. It's basically an APO2, but modernized as the with stuff that they knew from the M9L and other technologies. As you see, the canards are very similar to the M9L. So yeah, but it is just one of the best missiles that are not um, all aspect. So it is very hard to evade these missiles because they are really fast. They had a bug that they instantly had the max speed of the missile, but right now they fixed that bug, but it's still a very, very fast missile. You have to really be careful because it is a short burn time and they just get you, man. And it has a very good range and it turns very well. It's just an A9H, for example, but on steroids, basically. It has a better sensor, turns better, and it has a way more speed and it gets people from far. So a very, very capable missile, one of the best missiles that we have in game right now. But it's not a power creep because it is not all aspect, you know. And then we have, let's finish with the Israeli here, and then we go for the Russians. So yeah, the Shafir 2 can be very, very alright missile, to be honest, in its BR. I think it's very comparable to the M9D. So I would put it in kind of terrible. It is. I just found it very good because it is a Israeli domestic design, which is always fun. But obviously in its BR, I mean, I would put it not great, not terrible because the Mirage 3 CJ used this missile and it's just very good. And the A4N, which is a very low BR of 9.3, uses this missile. So it is just, it's basically the same as the M9E, a tiny bit different in speed and in range, but it's still, it is a very good missile. It turns very well, you know, and for its BR, it's pretty good. It's not in the same because the M9D normally is a higher BR, you know, but it's still the Shafir 2 is with the lower BR the aircraft that you use, it becomes a very deadly weapon, you know. And then let's start with the Russians. So let's start with these and just let's organize it here a bit. So the R13M1, it's a missile that a lot of people like it very much. So I'm going to put it on kind of OP because it is a missile that if he had an all aspect sensor, it would be very, very good. Basically, it is a missile that it literally is an AIM-9J together with an AIM-9H. You know, it has the canards and it turns 20 Gs, just like the AIM-9H. Jesus. But it has the range of the M9H, so it is the best of the both worlds, you know, that the Americans have. It is a copy version of that and a development of that, but it is still the best of the both worlds, you know, and it is a very, very deadly missile, very dangerous and very good missile. Honestly, in the MiG-21, I normally use 2 of these and 4 R60s. So they are very, very good, especially in simulator with the longer range. It's very, very nice to use this missile. Then we have the R60s. Obviously, I would say that the R60, the normal one, is kind of OP as well. I know, people like to say that this missile enjoy flares and that's why it's bad. It is not bad, man. It's the best missile in a dogfight situation. It turns faster and it has the shortest amount of minimum range to impact of all the missiles. So it is basically 300 meters in real life. So it makes it so that it turns very quickly and it's just a very, very good dogfight missile. Obviously, it doesn't have the range, but it's such a good missile in turning capabilities that it's just better. You know, it's I would say that it's even better. I prefer to use the R60 over the Magic 1 even because they turn so well and yeah, the sensor is just so amazing. I really love these missiles. But it is obviously a personal opinion. I know that a lot of people don't like the missile because they are susceptible to flares. But yeah, still, it's one of the best missiles in turning capabilities in the game. And then obviously you have the R60. M and the MK, which are basically the same missile in game. In real life, the K variant had a different proximity fuse, apparently, but they are the same missile in game. So I'm going to put it in the power creeps, obviously, because they are all aspect versions of the R60. They have a short burn time. Obviously, they don't have the range of the M9L or even the Magic 2, but they are very, very good at turning. As I said, I think they are even better than the Magic 1, 2 and M9L, and they are all aspect as well. The sensor is a little bit limited compared to the other ones, but I think it's just an amazing missile. Very early technology. I think it entered the service in like 1976, 77. So yeah, it's a very, very good missile and a missile that needs to be added on the MLD and an MLA, for example. It just makes the MiG-23M very, very capable, and the MiG-21B's SAU as well, very, very capable. So I really love these missiles. These are my favorite IR missiles for dogfights. They're just really, really amazing, and I love them. Yeah, they're really, really good. And then we have both of the uh, longer range Soviet IR missiles. I would put the R-23 in the kind LP and the R-24 in the power creeps. Obviously, the R-23, it is very limited in some areas, but it is a longer range than all these. It has more range than all of these missiles. It is all aspect, something that these missiles are not. And yeah, it's basically I'm not putting in the power creep just because we have the R24T, because if we didn't have that, I would probably compare it to the power creeps as well. It is a missile that it has a very large amount of energy, and it can turn well. It just takes a while to turn, but and being all aspect as well helps a lot the missile to actually get to good targets very quickly. It's not a missile that tends to go too much to flares. It goes, but it not that much as the R60, for example. So yeah, pretty amazing missile, and even better than that, the R24 has more energy, turns even better, and it is just the best missile out there. It has more range than AIM-9L, and it turns basically the same as on a Sparrow, which is pretty alright still. It starts turning very quickly. It doesn't have the delay as the R23, and it is just amazing missile. It has a very long range. Like you can get kills. I got a kill from 9 to 10 kilometers, kind of in a head-on with this missile. So it is a missile that it is very good. Obviously, it is all aspect, and I cannot wait until we see the evolution of these missiles as the R27 in the MiG-29, for example, or something like that. So yeah, let me know in the comments what you think about these, and they're just amazing missiles, pretty good ones. I think my list here is pretty alright. It is my personal opinion. They're not, to my opinion, obviously, I don't think there are many trash missiles and terrible missiles. They're just missiles that you have to learn how to use them. So yeah, but they're definitely way better missiles than the normal ones. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to subscribe, and I see you guys on the next one. Bye.